I've been looking forward to making this video. It has to do with cartridge adapters, and I'll start with the rifle we looked at before. So this is that Jeffrey Martini, and you can tell by the muzzle, it's a massive cartridge. I think I mentioned to you the guy sold it to me and he said it was a 577 Snyder, but it's actually the 577 450, which is fine. I just needed to find ammunition. So then I started looking for ammunition, and it's all ages old. So then I set out to make an adapter. I could also make the brass. I have some basic brass that I can form into anything, but it takes a long time. So I thought I'll make an adapter, but first I wanted to see exactly what's going on with the chambers. So you've probably seen this stuff before. I think it's some kind of an alloy made out of bismuth. It melts at, I think, about 150 degrees, so it melts very easily. And so I set the rifle up for a chamber casting, and this was my chamber casting. And it's a little bit off center, but it doesn't matter. And I had notions of using this form to create a mold and use the mold to make an adapter. And then I thought somebody else must have thought of this. So I went online, and of course somebody had. And here's the 577 450 adapter. And I'm going to show you some other adapters. This is a great adapter that allows me to shoot 45 Colt. So it just simply drops in, and it works very, very well. This is an accurate load. It's funny because when you look up the bore diameter, you would think that the 45 Colt sort of rattles down the bore, but not so. It's excellent. The other thing I like about it is after you shoot some of these adapters, the brass gets not stuck, but you have to take a tool like this tool to poke the brass out of the adapter. But in this case, these have all been fired. You just drop the brass out. So those of you that have 577 450s, I highly recommend these, and they're made by Shooter's Box. They come in these plastic containers, and they work superbly. And they get a gun shooting again that probably hadn't been fired in a very long time. And I like that 45 Colt. Now, I told a collector friend about this, and he has an adapter that I have not seen that somehow shoots 4570 in the same Martini 577 450. So maybe I'll try to find one of those. And then, seeing as I'm on the subject of an excellent adapter, I thought I'd show you some others. This one is very cool. This you probably recognize this. It's a 300 Winchester Magnum, and the 30 carbine simply fits in the back of the 300, just like that. And as you know, the 300 Winchester Magnum is kind of a wicked cartridge to shoot in any rifle, unless it's a very heavy rifle. And for practice, I find that I'm actually shooting 30 carbine past several years out of this adapter. I cleaned it up. It was dirty looking, but I cleaned it up, and it's fantastic. Now the carbine travels the length, as you can see. This effectively becomes like a little barrel inside of the chamber. And now that gives it a bit of a run at the rifling, but I don't expect, target accuracy. Oh, people were asking, what can you hit with this? So easily a Coke can at 50 yards, and this is not too far different, slightly more accurate, the 30 carbine, which makes sense because probably the bore diameters are a little closer. And then, since I was on the subject, I'll show you another one that I frequently use, and this is for the 222, also stainless steel. and the 22 cartridge goes in. You can probably picture it. There's a slight twist to this one, because this goes in here to fill the space, and of course this has to be a center fire here and a rimfire here, so the rod or firing pin inside this adapter is at an angle, and this is surprisingly accurate. I've fired this in Anschutz in my BSA that I showed you, or I showed it on the main channel, and it's almost silent. This is that CCI Quiet 22. So this one I like a lot. I look for a 223 once in a while if I remember, but I haven't found one yet. So 30 carbine, this is one of those excellent adapters. Another excellent one. This one I don't use much, only because I just didn't get around to it. This is kind of neat looking. This is 30-06, and then you put if I'm not wrong, you put a 380 round. I mentioned this to somebody and they said, no, 380's too big. But that's what I remember, but it could be 32 long Colt. That's possible. Anyway, that's a very useful adapter. And even if you have any of these along for grouse or something like that on a big game hunt, I mean, this isn't really a big game cartridge, but certainly the 300 Win Mag is, and a 30 carbine gives you all kinds of flexibility at close range, and it's fairly quiet. And then this last one I assembled, and it's this is not too common, but it's cool. That's a 250 Savage, and for a while I couldn't find 250 Savage ammunition, and then I was at a gun show, and this is 25 auto. This one is a tremendous amount of fun to shoot. Very quiet in my Savage 99, and this ammo is all over the place, so you just buy 50 rounds. Now you have to always remove the brass case, but I never found that an issue. Does it stick? Well, this one sometimes for some reason sticks in the chambers. Maybe the dimensions are a little tighter. This one never sticks in any 300. This one I haven't used much, but it didn't stick. And this one didn't stick in the Savage. And you know, the pressures that you're dealing with are so low here. There's no problem with wiping these down a little bit with something. You have to keep the O-ring inside the adapter lubricated, because that keeps it in position. And it's easier to move it in and out with just a little Ballistol or wax, or heck, you could use liquid soap, doesn't matter. Anyhow, I wanted to show you that because especially this one was a great problem solver for this fantastic rifle. And effortless operation, virtually no recoil, very quiet, and more than enough accuracy, just fine in every way. And I guess my next favorite is that 30 carbine and the 300 Win Mag, just because it's so surprisingly effective. I wish there maybe was a way, you know, to buy a half dozen of them, of the adapters, but they probably wouldn't feed. But with a single shot, you don't have to think about that from scratch. So I hope that's useful to you. I don't know how long they're going to make those. They were cheap, $25, something like that, which I think is very inexpensive and saves me having to make my own. And good material. I think it's either chrome-plated stainless steel, or it's stainless steel right through and through. Probably stainless. I think they said it is. Anyhow, that's about it. Thanks very much for watching. And as I dig up my other adapters, I have an adapter that changes a 12 gauge into a 20 into a 410. You know, people are constantly experimenting, and quite a few European devices involving those Acorn cartridges that we can look at in the future. Anyhow, all the best, and we'll see you next time. Take care.